gracious good day to one and all once again. 'Tis I, Norton the First, by grace of God, Emperor of the United States and Protector of Mexico. Back with you once again for episode number 149 of Emperor Norton's fantastic history vlog. Today is October 6, 2020, our 204th day living with COVID-19. Hard to believe. A couple programming notes before we begin. Number one, there will not be a vlog this Friday. We do have some imperial business to attend to. We will be back, however, on the Saturday with the Countess, and we've got a special surprise this Saturday. Our green screen is arriving soon, so we'll utilize that on Saturday's vlog for the first time. This background has been wonderful. It was given to us by Grand Duchess Judy Leff. It has served us well, but it's time to experiment with some new backgrounds. This will be making appearances from time to time, but with a green screen, we can do all sorts of interesting things. So look forward to that. Also, somewhere near the end of the month, we'll probably be taking a week off to deal with the Dowager's estate. And when we come back, that's when we're going to roll out the new format, probably. So what's going to happen is we will continue to do the Saturday or Sunday, depending upon what's going on the weekends, show. Let's just call it the weekend edition with the Countess. But in addition to that, this is no longer going to be a 4-day-a-week vlog. It'll be a 1-day-a-week vlog. So we're putting out 2 episodes per week, one with the Countess and us, and one with just us. And it's going to be a weekly almanac, kind of what we're doing today with more days, an in-depth look at 1 or 2 particular San Francisco stories, and then covering all the things we usually cover. And we are hoping at the same time to have this vlog also be a podcast. For those of you who are podcast fans, you can tune in that way, but oh, you'll be missing my lovely face. So, your decision. Let's begin with our national days. Starting with October 3rd, it was Virus Appreciation Day. Kind of odd in these times that we live in. I don't think anybody really appreciates the virus, do they? Hope not. Techies Day. Well, we're a techie, so hats off to us, I guess. 10-4, aside from being a call out on Citizen Band Radio. We have 2 national holidays that kind of go together, national days rather. Well, kind of, but don't. National Vodka Day and National Taco Day. So, eat a taco, have a vodka. Or, well, you had to do that a couple days ago. Oh well. Moving on to the 5th of October, it was World Teachers Day. Hats off to all of our teachers. They do a wonderful job under trying circumstances. And we owe so much to our teachers who brought us to this place today and taught us many of the skills that we utilize in our day-to-day life, the vlog, the tours, etc. Especially call-outs to Fred Cutler, Joe Black, oh God, I can't remember my vocal teacher's name, Perry Carter, and Harry Correa. Those were very influential teachers upon us. A couple others to mention would be Alan Schwalbe, Mike Mang. Hats off to all of you. Thank you for teaching us so much. And we have a number of teachers who are friends, so hats off to them as well. Speaking of hats, it's Mad Hatter's Day and Noodle Day. So have some noodles today. Yes, we'll probably be having ramen. Our Florida man story, always interesting. Thong-wearing Florida man arrested while building shed with garbage on stranger's property. Only in Florida, right? For our San Francisco story today, we're going to rely, as we so often do, on John Ralston's delightful tome, This Date in San Francisco. Because it was on October 3rd, 1957, that Lawrence Ferlinghetti is acquitted of obscenity for selling Howl. Very important in San Francisco and to censorship in general. Let's talk about that. On March 25th, Collector of Customs Chester McPhee had seized 500 copies of Allen Ginsberg's Howl and other poems, saying, "Wouldn't want your children to come across it." City Lights bookstore owner Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who's still with us, I believe he's 101 now, who had been present at the seminal reading of Howl at the Sixth Gallery on October 7, 1955, had indicted Ginsberg to send in the manuscript, shot back publicly at McPhee in the Chronicle on March 19th, saying Howl was the most significant poem of its time, place, and generation since World War II. McPhee was overruled and federal authorities released Ginsberg's book, but on May 21st, two San Francisco police officers acting under covers from Captain William Hanrahan, head of the Juvenile Bureau, bought copies of Howl from clerk I should have looked this up in advance, Shigeyoshiri Murao, I hope I pronounced that right, for violating Section 311 of the California Penal Code, which prohibited writing, selling, or keeping for sale, quote, any obscene or indecent writing, paper, or book, unquote, a misdemeanor. A warrant for the arrest of Ferlinghetti, then in Big Sur, was filed at the same time. Ferlinghetti returned to San Francisco and surrendered. He and Murao were released on bail furnished by the American Civil Liberties Union. If convicted, Ferlinghetti and Murao could be sentenced to up to 6 months in jail and fined $500. Late in June, the United States Supreme Court upheld federal and California laws against selling obscene literature on the grounds that obscenity was not constitutionally protected. Significantly, the court left the definition of obscenity open. In San Francisco, the Library Commission had locked up books from mainland China on the grounds that they were possibly subversive. San Francisco booksellers petitioned Mayor George Christopher to end Hanrahan's raids. Ferlinghetti and Murao were on trial on August 16. The defendants waived a jury, leaving the decision to Municipal Judge Clayton Horn. Horn might have seemed unsympathetic. Just 2 months earlier, he'd attracted ridicule for ordering 5 women shoplifters to see Cecil B. DeMille's epic, The Ten Commandments, and submit essays on the basis of which he would decide if they were repentant. The courtroom was packed. Ferlinghetti's friends and customers, poetry lovers, intelligentsia, lawyers, writers, including Henry Miller, several of whose books were banned in the United States. The defense produced a battery of distinguished literary figures: poet Kenneth Rexroth, author Walter Van Tilburg Clark, The Oxbow Incident, University of Berkeley English professor Mark Schorer, all testified to the effect that Howl, and by extension all literature, might be judged in its entirety not for the words used. Schorer said Howl is an attempt to create an impression of a nightmare world with surrealistic images. It uses rhythms and languages of ordinary speech, necessarily the language of vulgarity, the language of the man on the street. Clark said Howl was a work of a highly competent technician, and Rexworth compared it to the Bible in purpose and language. Defense lawyers met the dirty word issue head on, reading from the Bible, Shakespeare, Balzac, and Joyce to prove that stark language is often found necessary by great writers. Assistant DA McIntosh produced only 2 witnesses of doubtful credentials. McIntosh himself said he couldn't understand Howl. Quote, "I've only got a bunch of law degrees. I don't know anything about literature," unquote. Cross-examining Shore is asked, "Is there anything in there you can translate into rational prose?" "You can translate poetry into prose," explained Shore. "That's why it's poetry." "Sorry, you can't translate poetry into prose," explained Shore. "That's why it's poetry." McIntosh asked Shore about the meaning of 2 other poems in Ginsberg's. "These poems," explained Shore patiently, "are entirely different from Howl. They are lyric poetry, whereas Howl is hortatory." "Howl is what?" "Hortatory." "No further questions," said McIntosh. On September 5th, Judge Horn had hinted at his decision, saying he would judge Howl as an entire work, not merely on individual words. On October 3rd, he rendered the most significant decision on obscenity in literature since United States District Judge James Woolsey's 1933 ruling that James Joyce's Ulysses was not obscene. In a 39-page decision, Horn found Ferlinghetti and Morale not guilty and made it clear that in the future, police should be guided by his decision before prowling the bookstores. Obscenity, he said, is in the eye of the beholder. After shaking hands with well-wishers, Ferlinghetti hurried back to City Lights and stacked the windows with copies of Howl, which sold for 75 cents each. You can still find copies of Howl in City Lights booksellers in North Beach, the greatest bookstore in San Francisco for new books. We have a couple of used bookstores we're particularly fond of. Well, let's move on to our other history for today, shall we? Starting with October 3rd. 1226, St. Francis of Assisi, patron saint of animals, namesake of San Francisco, founder of the Franciscan order, dies at either 44 or 45. What, did he lie about his age? 1789, president at that time, George Washington proclaims the first National Thanksgiving Day on November 26. 1849, American author Edgar Allan Poe is found delirious in a gutter in Baltimore, Maryland, under mysterious circumstances. It is the last time he is seen in public before his death. 1863, President Lincoln designates the last Thursday in November, been gone for a while, as Thanksgiving Day. 1872, Bloomingdale's department store opens in New York. 1913, the U.S. federal income tax is signed into law. It was 1% by President Woodrow Wilson. 1922, the first facsimile photo sent over telephone wires. 1941, the Nazis blow up 6 synagogues in Paris. 1954, Father Knows Best premieres. 1955, the Mickey Mouse Club premieres. M-I-C, cereal soon, K-E-Y. Why? Because we like you. M-O-U-S-E. 1960, San Francisco's White House department store is the first to accept the Bank Americard, we know that today as Visa. 1990, the reunification of East and West Germany. The West German flag is raised above the Brandenburg Gate at the stroke of midnight. Moving on to the 4th of October. 1880, the University of California is founded in Los Angeles, UCLA. Go Bruins. 1883, the Orient Express departs on its first official journey from Paris to Istanbul. 1916, Market Street's Path of Gold is lit for the first time. Now, that is still there, although it was redone in the 1970s. Those gold street lights, just the lights themselves, all the way down Market Street, the Path of Gold. That was originally done in 1916 for the Portola Festival, which was kind of a dress rehearsal. Came after, rather, the PPIE, the Pan Pacific International Exposition. That's when those lights, those golden lights, were first installed. And if you ever look at old pictures of Lotta's Fountain, you will notice that it was much taller at one time. Those were added by the Path of Gold Committee to make Lotta's Fountain's light the same height as the rest of the street lights. Now that was removed and brought down to its original level in the 1990s renovation of Lotta's Fountain that was spearheaded by then Mayor Willie Brown. 1926, the dahlia is officially designated as the San Francisco city flower. Did you know that? And if you ever go to the Conservatory of Flowers, there's a lovely dahlia garden. As you're facing the building, it's to the right. It's there every year, done by the Dahlia Society of San Francisco. 1931, Dick Tracy comic strip. It debuts by Chester Gould. 1933, the magazine Esquire is published for the first time. 1949, the United Nations permanent New York City headquarters is designated. Now, the United Nations was supposed to be here, but the Rockefellers donated all that land in Manhattan, and that's why it's there. But don't forget, the United Nations Charter was written and signed here in San Francisco. 1957, the Soviet Union launches Sputnik 1, the first artificial Earth satellite into elliptical low Earth orbit. Wow, was that ever a big thing? 1976, U.S. Agriculture Secretary Earl Butz resigns after telling a racial joke. I can't tell it. I know the joke. I can't tell it. If you're not easily offended, email us. Leave a comment down below with your email address, perhaps, or email emperornorton2@gmail.com, and we'll send you the joke. It's rather racist and off-color. 1978, Pier 39 opens in San Francisco. Happy birthday, Pier 39. Do locals ever go there? Well, some do, I suppose, occasionally. 2006, WikiLeaks is launched, created by internet activist Julian Assange. Moving on to the 5th of October, 1857, the city of Anaheim, California is founded, the home of Disneyland. 1875, the Palace Hotel on Market Street officially opens in San Francisco. 1924, the comic strip Little Orphan Annie premieres in the New York City Daily News. 1942, 5,000 Jews of Dubno, Russia are massacred. 1942 as well, the Buddy Massacre at the Auschwitz subcamp, 90 French Jewish women beaten to death by prison guards. 1945, Meet the Press premieres on radio. They're still doing it every Sunday. 1953, former governor of California, Earl Warren, is sworn in as the 14th Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. 1963, the Hyde Street Pier reopens as a state historical park, now a national historical park. 1964, the San Francisco Fire Department Museum is dedicated. 1970, John Creech joins Jefferson Airplane. Of course, we know that Madonna wrote that wonderful song about him, Papa John Creech. 1978, Isaac Bashevis Singer wins the Nobel Prize for Literature. 1983, Lech Walesa wins the Nobel Peace Prize. 2018, the Banksy work Girl with Balloon automatically shreds moments after being sold for £1 million in London. It is renamed Love is in the Bin. Moving on to the 6th of October, 1889, the Moulin Rouge opens in Paris. 1889, Thomas Edison shows his first motion picture. 1893, Nabisco Foods invents cream of wheat. You know, there's been a real movement lately to get rid of racist images on packaging. Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben. I think cream of wheat is the only one left, and I'm not sure about that, if it is still around, but I'm willing to bet you that it disappears sometime soon. 1935, the Market Street Railway San Francisco starts using trackless trolley coaches. Now, there's a lot of confusion about our transit here in the city. A lot of people call the cable cars trolleys and the streetcars the trolleys, and there's a lot of confusion. So here's how you tell the difference. We have four modes of transportation for public transit here in San Francisco. Okay. If it runs on rubber wheels and a diesel engine and has no antenna, that's a bus. If it runs on rubber wheels, has an electric engine and two antennas that hook up to wires, that's a trolley. If it has steel wheels running on steel tracks and one antenna, that's a streetcar. And if it's small, old, made of wood, running on three tracks, because the outside tracks are for the wheels, the center track's a slotted one for the cable down below, that's a cable car. There will be a test at the end of the vlog today, so I hope you're taking notes. 1939, Adolf Hitler announces plans to regulate the Jewish problem. Okay. Speaking of which, 1943, Himmler wants acceleration of the final solution. 1951, Joseph Stalin proclaims the Soviet Union has the atomic bomb. 1952, Agatha Christie's play The Mousetrap opens in London. It ran continuously until March 16 of this year, when stage performances had to be discontinued due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That's an incredible run. Pity that COVID had to end the run. Hopefully it will start up again soon. We still remember getting on the set for that on a theater tour in London in 1974. 1966, LSD, lysergic acid dithylamine, I hope I pronounced that right, is first declared illegal in the state of California. Other states follow. Trails. 1967, Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco hippies throw a funeral for the hippie to mark the end of the Summer of Love. Let's move on to our births today. Starting with the 3rd of October, 1924, Harvey Kurtzman, American cartoonist and founding editor of Mad magazine, one of the best. 1925, author let me start again on that one. 1925, author Gore Vidal, the writer of Myra Breckinridge and Lincoln, is born. 1938, Eddie Cochran, rocker, one of the original rockers. Come on, everybody! 1939, James Darren, who was in Gidget. 1941, Chubby Checker of The Twist. 1947, Lindsey Buckingham of Fleetwood Mac. 1954, Reverend Al Sharpton, civil rights activist. Moving on to the 4th now of October. 1822, 19th U.S. President Rutherford B. Hayes. 1961, Frederick Remington, U.S. artist and sculptor of the American West. 1880, Damon Runyon, American journalist and writer. The musical Guys and Dolls is based on his work. 1895, one of the greats of the silent screen, Buster Keaton. 1937, British-American author Jackie Collins. 1941, Anne Rice, the author of Interview with a Vampire. And it is said, and actually I verified this, that the Victorian she was living in on Divisadero and Fell, 2 doors up from the corner, the northwest corner of Divisadero and Fell, is the house that she was living in at the time, and it's what inspired her to write the book. It's a gorgeously painted Victorian. Oh, where were we? 1941, writer Roy Blount Jr. 1944, singer Patti LaBelle, Lady Marmalade, Voulez-vous coucher avec moi? 1946, Susan Sarandon, actor. Moving on to the 5th of October, 1829, 21st President of the United States, Chester Alan Arthur. 1882, Robert Goddard, American rocket pioneer, invented and built the first liquid-fueled rocket. 1922, Bill Keane, who drew the comic strip Family Circus, now done by his son Billy, who is a character in Family Circus. There you go. 1923, Reverend Father Philip Berrigan, American peace activist, Roman Catholic priest. 1923, I said that one already. He was also one of the Chicago 7. 1924, actor, comedian Bill Dana. He's remembered for his character. He had a sitcom, Jose Jimenez. They couldn't do that today. It was pretty racist, to tell you the truth. 1925, Bob Thaves, American cartoonist of Frank and Ernest. 1932, Yvonne Brathwaite Burke, American politician, first African-American woman to represent the West Coast in Congress. 1934, American serial killer Angelo Buono Jr. 1936, Václav Havel, the former president of Czechoslovakia. 1951, Bob Geldof of the Boomtown Rats, and of course, Live Aid of We Are the World. No, Bob. We are the world. Moving on to the 6th. 1846, George Westinghouse, American entrepreneur and engineer, air brakes, alternating current system. 1887, the architect Le Corbusier. 1906, actor Janice Gaynor. 1909, actor Carole Lombard. We recently saw her in My Man Godfrey. Oh, she was wonderful. Unfortunately, she was killed in an airplane crash in World War II. She was married at the time to Clark Gable, his great love. They're buried side by side. 1914, Thor Heyerdahl, Norwegian anthropologist and explorer, Kon-Tiki. Let's move on to our deaths today. On the 3rd of October, 1656, Miles Standish, the Plymouth Colony leader. 1867, Elias Howe, the inventor of the sewing machine. 2003, artist, cartoonist, children's author William Steig. He was the creator of Shrek. And I don't know why I have 1669 after everyone else. Rembrandt died. Sorry, that was out of order. Moving on to the 4th, and I have a feeling that was for the 4th. 1904, Frederick August Bartholdi, the sculptor of the Statue of Liberty. 1944, Alfred Al Smith, American politician, 4-time governor of New York, first Roman Catholic presidential candidate. 1970, Janis Joplin. 2004, astronaut Gordon Cooper. 2014, Jean-Claude Duvalier, Baby Doc, Haitian dictator. And moving on to the 5th of October, 1805, Cornwallis, the British general and colonial administrator. He led the British Army in the American War of Independence that he would ultimately lose. 1813, Shawnee Chief Tecumseh. 1941, Louis Brandeis, American lawyer and first Jewish Supreme Court justice. 1983, Earl Tupper, the American-born Costa Rican inventor and businessman. He was the inventor of Tupperware. And you know, he was buried in a big Tupperware container. They burped it. And when they exhumed him a few years ago, he was perfectly preserved. 1990, Meir Khan, American founder of the Jewish Defense League, was assassinated. 2011, Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple. And we'd like to use this opportunity to thank him for spearheading, more or less inventing, of course a lot of people were behind it, the iPhone. This entire vlog is shot, edited, and uploaded on an iPhone. Couldn't do it without it. It's a wonderful, wonderful phone. We are a dedicated Apple user since 1990. We don't do Windows. Where were we? Lost our place. Here we go. Moving on to the 6th, 1892, Alfred Tennyson, writer, British poet laureate, wrote The Charge of the Light Brigade. 1981, President of Egypt Anwar Sadat is assassinated by fundamentalist army officers. And 1989, the great actor Bette Davis. And so for our quote today, we're going to use a quote from Bette Davis. In case you don't know, there was a tremendous feud between Bette Davis and Joan Crawford going back decades. The only movie they did was Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. If you have not seen the series Feud that came out a few years ago, it does a great job of telling that story. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful show if you've never seen it. So that's to set up the quote. Because she said, pardon my imitation, "You should never say bad things about the dead, only good. Joan Crawford is dead. Good." Somewhat fitting from her. She always spoke her mind. So, that wraps it up for today's edition. If you'd like to leave a tip, we're getting that green screen, and that's all thanks to your support of this vlog. So here's the information for that. You can do a monthly subscription via Venmo or one-time donations via PayPal. No, I'm sorry. The monthly subscriptions via Patreon. You can leave one-time donations via Venmo or PayPal. We're still waking up. Also, if you'd like more information about the tours, which will be starting soon, toward the end of October, for us at least, Countess will follow later. Beginning of November, we're looking at relaunching. Here's the website for that. Also, a lot of links to great historical information on there. So until we see you again, stay safe, stay healthy, stay inside. If you do go outside, please wear a mask. It's a very irresponsible message from Trump today, not to be afraid of the virus. Be afraid of the virus. It will kill you. And don't take unproven cures that might kill you. We are more disgusted with what happened yesterday than probably anything in this entire pandemic. Highly irresponsible. Highly. Be kind to one another. Until we see you again, a gracious good day.